I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided, apparently I'm the problem. A local newspaper going after me for exposing the truth about a story that they got wrong. Figure that one out. Plus, it is primary election day, so we'll have some important reminders for you in case you haven't got your ballot in yet. And Socialist former City Councilwoman Kshama Sawant's supporters arrested at a town hall for Congressman Adam Smith. We'll have the details on that and much more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, since we are going to talk more shit about the mainstream news, if you too are dissatisfied with legacy news, why not support us on Undivided? We are doing more Washington State political content than any other outlet, and it's not even close. And you can support our independent, truth-based work for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. That's undividedpod.com. And you just click on the banner that says support the show. Buckle up, buttercups. Children out of the room. It's not PG-13 today. Is it PG-13 any day? Hello, welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to truth, to being reasonable, to being rational, to thinking for yourself, and for giving common sense a comeback. I'm Brandi Kruse. I'm livid today. And look, I should not be disappointed by the legacy media anymore. I mean, this is what they do. I said last week, this is exactly what they were going to do with this story, but didn't stop me from being royally pissed off when I walked in the door today and read the story that the Olympian put out on the Paco debacle. Yeah, the Paco story's not dead, apparently, because now it's my fault. I'm the bad guy for doing the job that the media should have done in vetting Paco, a poor farmer, hardworking small business owner who was abducted off the streets of Olympia, Washington by ICE. Apparently it's my fault for looking into that, doing just a little tiny bit of work and showing that Paco wasn't even Paco at all and the whole story wasn't true. And now I'm the bad guy. I'm a racist. I'm somehow a homophobe. I don't know. I thought Paco had a wife. I don't know how homophobia comes into all of this. You guys, this is fucking insane. It's absolutely insane. I was telling Nicole, I feel like I'm going to have some sort of, I was checking my heart rate when I walked in the door today. I'm livid over this, and there's so many reasons. We'll dive into it. So just a quick background refresher for those who aren't familiar with our Paco exclusive. The Olympian newspaper, which is a McClatchy paper, and that's important here because McClatchy is a wire service. So when one McClatchy paper publishes something, guess what happens? It goes to all the other McClatchy papers too. So this didn't just go to the readers of the Olympian. It was published in all these other newspapers as well. The headline, Lacey business owner abducted by ICE, according to online fundraiser. And it had this sketch of a nice man on a horse and claimed his name was Paco. And this entire story was based off of the tale being spun by an anti-ICE activist on a GoFundMe page. The Olympian didn't vet one single sentence of it, just took the claims in this fundraiser, put it out there as a news story, used the word abducted in the headline, didn't look into a damn thing. So even though the rest of the mainstream news doesn't consider us to be a news outlet, we did the journalistic work that they aren't willing to do. And we spent days digging into this Paco character. You, the undivided viewers, were key in uncovering the truth behind Paco. And it turns out Paco wasn't Paco at all. Paco was an illegal Mexican national named Yusef Zarate Bourbon who was wanted for murder in Mexico. So ICE wasn't even the entity that arrested him. It was Homeland Security investigations working with the U.S. Marshals because they had a guy who was wanted for murder. So no, they didn't abduct him off the streets. They took him into custody, and he's going to be sent back to Mexico to maybe face the music for his alleged crime. So last week, we spent all 4 days of our live shows. Last week. And every day we learn more and more about this situation by doing, between Nicole and I and you, basic research. Basic research to figure out what was going on in this case, because anyone with a brain would have looked at that GoFundMe by a woman who's all over social media saying, fuck ICE, and would have said, this sounds awful suspicious. Maybe ICE had a good reason for picking this guy up. And you're not even giving us any information. You're calling him Paco. She's raising thousands of dollars for this guy on a story that was so incredibly suspicious. But the Olympian didn't find it suspicious? Or maybe they did and they didn't care. Because anything that makes Donald Trump look bad, ICE look evil, they're going to print as fact. So we do all this research. We fully debunk the Paco story. Expose him as Youssef. And as I was railing last week, the Olympian just left their story up. And they added a little editor's note saying, we're looking into this because GoFundMe has removed the fundraiser. And the reporter was on vacation. This Rolf Boone guy. And I said, look, okay, there's no one else at the Olympian that can just hit delete. No one else in the whole freaking building or with McClatchy newspapers that can just say, hey, that story's been debunked. Let's just take it down. At the very least, so it doesn't continue to spread this narrative that this poor Paco guy was abducted by ICE. No, apparently we've got to wait for Rolf Boone to get back from vacation. And he wouldn't respond to any of our requests for comment, but he was on social media saying, I'm aware that this is happening. I'm on vacation till Monday, so I'm not going to respond to anything until then. So Monday comes and goes. First thing we did Monday morning before yesterday's show is we looked, has the Olympian updated their story yet? Nothing. We're like, okay, maybe he's back from vacation. He's looking into it. Which, what is there to look into? We did all the work for you. We did all your job for you. So it comes out today. So I'm just pulling in to the studio today when I'm pinged with, the Olympian put out an updated story. For the love of God, it's even worse. Before you even get to it, Nicole, what did I say last week? What did I say last week would happen? I said, you can go back and roll the tape from Thursday's show. I said, here's what they're going to do. They're going to come out. They're going to put out an updated story. They're going to find someone else to blame. They're not going to take any accountability whatsoever for putting out a fully unvetted story and somehow paint me as the enemy. Do I know the media or do I know the media?
Mm-hmm. You know the media.
I know the media because I used to be the media. I used to be in these newsrooms. I know how these newsrooms work. God forbid they admit that they're wrong about something.
Never.
And look, I'm not perfect before I get into this. I'm not perfect. I've gotten things wrong before. It's pretty rare. I've gotten things wrong before in my old career in the news, and it's the worst feeling ever if you actually care about your job and your journalistic integrity. Getting something wrong is the worst feeling ever. But I can't imagine having ever done that and just let it be. Or not immediately took accountability and immediately corrected it, even when it was really, really difficult. It's always difficult. Having to admit you're wrong as a journalist is always difficult. It always sucks. When it happened to me the first time, I thought my career was over. I thought I'd never get a job in news again. And you know what? I admitted I was wrong. The person I was wrong about accepted my apology, and we all moved on. So I'm not perfect. We've gotten stuff wrong on this show before. Nothing particularly serious, but little things here and there. And what do I always do? Maybe even in a way that Nicole doesn't particularly like. I'll derail the whole show. At the beginning of the show, I won't bury it in some 30 minutes in. At the beginning of the show, what do? I say, hey, I got something wrong on the show on such and such a day. I want to correct it. It's happened a few times. Because I do opinion, but if I don't have any integrity, then what good am I? If my opinions aren't based in fact, then what good am I? So the fact that I have more journalistic integrity than actual journalists is wild, and it just speaks to the state of the legacy media. So let's get to this freaking story, for the love of God. So they didn't even take down the old story, by the way. Still up. They just added a new one. The headline, a GoFundMe raised money for Paco. Here's what we know about that effort. And Rolf Boone puts Paco in quotes. Okay, so now, of course, because Paco isn't a real person. But now instead of the sketch of the guy on the horse, it has the photo that was taken of Youssef when he was arrested. This is insane. So first, you already know. Nowhere in this entire follow-up, despite having a week and a day to fix it, do they take accountability? Nowhere is there an apology. There's clearly not a retraction because the old story's up. There's clearly not a retraction because the old story is up. Nowhere do they accept accountability for anything, and that's disgusting. You printed an entire story that was shared far and wide saying ICE abducted some guy named Paco who didn't even really exist. So Rolf doesn't take accountability for it all. I'll read the first couple paragraphs. A GoFundMe campaign that raised money for a man identified only as Paco has been removed from the fundraising website amid allegations that the man is facing murder charges in Mexico. The co-organizer of the GoFundMe campaign, Olympia area resident Kruse told the Olympian she was unaware of the allegations against the man and said there was no attempt to defraud donors to the campaign. The Olympian wrote about the GoFundMe campaign on July 22nd, saying it had raised $9,800 of a $10,000 goal to help a Thurston County resident, quote, abducted by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The Olympian reached out to Miller at the time to ask her questions about the incident, but she didn't reply. Specific details about the incident also were not immediately available from ICE. Days after the story was published, Western Washington conservative media personalities, that's just me, reported that Paco had been identified as Yusef Zarate Bourbon, 34. The man is accused of homicide in Mexico, according to the ex-account of Homeland Security Investigations Pacific Northwest. So they reference in there that they wrote a story about this, and then they blame, oh, well, people didn't answer our request for comment. We reached out to Kruse Miller. She didn't reply. We reached out to ICE. They didn't reply. So you thought it was a good idea to just do the story anyway? That was mistake number one. You couldn't get any additional information. You decided it was a good idea to take a completely unvetted narrative and just put it out there as a news story using the word abducted in the headline at a time when ICE agents are being assaulted because people like you are spreading lies that they're abducting and kidnapping people off the streets. No accountability. Not the Olympian regrets this error. Simple. The Olympian regrets not having done more research before publishing the initial story. Nothing. So then it gets into the reporting they should have done initially, and it talks about, like, you know, what this guy's accused of, his businesses that he ran, has some, you know, they talk to Kruse Miller. Finally, she responds to someone, the woman behind the GoFundMe, and, you know, talks to them a little bit. And then they get into this last segment of the story, and it's very important that this is the last segment of the story that they write, because this is what readers walk away with. It says fallout from the fundraiser. Meanwhile, Kruse Miller said she has been inundated with hate-filled messages, causing her to delete her social media presence. The blowback got so bad that she turned to Western States Center, a civil rights organization based in Portland, for assistance. They quote the senior organizer, Kate Bitts, of the Western States Center. When our team checks in with people who are experiencing a deluge of hostile calls, emails, and social media comments, which can sometimes include actionable threats, we always make sure to tell the person that this situation is not their fault. She goes on to tell the Olympian, this is the last paragraph of the story. The influencers targeting these individuals are constantly in need of a new person to point at, whether that's a local leader standing up for their LGBTQ plus constituents, an activist speaking frankly about racism, or a small business owner setting up a fundraiser for a neighbor who's been taken by ICE. End story. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? That is outrageous. It's defamatory. You don't have to say my name for people to know who you're talking about. We're the ones who reported it. We're the ones who debunked it. So now, for some reason, Kruse Miller getting death threats and all of this is squarely on my shoulders. And for some reason, you're also suggesting that I attack people who are standing up for the LGBTQ community and activists speaking frankly about racism. So now, because I exposed the truth, the simple truth, that your story was wrong, rather than admit you were wrong and correct your errors, you're using it as an opportunity to paint me as a racist and, oddly, a homophobe? It's defamatory. And look, yes, it's journalistic malpractice, but we've come to accept that, right? We've come to accept that. The fact that you couldn't just do the difficult thing that all good journalists at some point in their career have to do and admit the error of your ways, make a retraction, make an apology. You couldn't do that. Absolutely unacceptable for you to have done that, right? You can't do that. So let's leave the initial false story up and let's create a new story painting Carissa Miller as the victim and painting Brandi Kruse as the devil for doing the job that we should have done in the first place. And let me just say that I went out of my way to give Carissa Miller the benefit of the doubt. And yes, it's true. She took down her Instagram account. The GoFundMe was taken down. It's not going to be put back up. Even though this woman pushed out an unvetted narrative just based on her personal perspective of what happened, even though she's on her social media pages putting out hashtag chinga la migra, F immigration, even though it was very clear that she hates ICE and was spinning a narrative, she didn't have the obligation that a journalist has to get the facts correct. It was very clear that this was her perspective of what had happened. And what did I say on this show? I said I would be shocked if she knew that he was wanted for murder in Mexico. What did I say from the very beginning? I said, I'm sure there is some guy who lives by her and owns a farm who was picked up by immigration, but I'm sure there's more to the story. I gave this woman every benefit of the doubt. I said, maybe she is just a good-hearted neighbor. She's worried about this dude who she's come to know and like, but that doesn't make her story true. But now I'm the enemy because I did what the Olympian should have done to begin with. Now, I have emailed the Olympian yet again today. Keep in mind, we did far more work and vetting and groundwork on this story than the Olympian did. And what did we do? We reached out to both Carissa Miller and the reporter at the Olympian and the editors at the Olympian multiple times, including before we ever did a story on the Paco debacle, because we were doing our jobs. And hey, had Carissa Miller gotten back to us and said, I'm not sure what his last name is, or given us, we said, you could even give us information on background if you're worried about his identity or his family. We just want to be able to confirm it. And had she done that early on, this wouldn't have turned into such an ordeal. But again, I would argue the onus isn't necessarily on her. Although I would say if you're going to ask people for money, you should probably have a good idea of what's going on. The onus is on the Olympian. And what I told the Olympian in an email this morning when I demanded a retraction and an apology by the end of business today is I said, none of this would have happened, Rolf Boone, had you done your job. Done even the basics of your job, had an ounce of curiosity, ounce of skepticism about someone who's chinga la migra all over her social media accounts, and maybe she was spinning a tale. Maybe ICE didn't abduct this guy. Maybe there was a reason he was arrested. Maybe I should figure out his last name or really any identifying. Had you done the basics of your job, even spent 5 to 10 minutes looking into this, we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't have found a GoFundMe down in Olympia for some guy named Paco. We wouldn't have come across that. It was a story for us because the Olympian made it a story without verifying anything at a time when immigration agents are being harassed, doxxed, assaulted, and almost killed. And they chose in that political environment, in that hostile climate, to add fuel to the fire of division and hate and anger, rather than fulfill their obligation to you, to the public. They're supposed to stand in the breach and provide truth and facts and information to the populace and to their readers. But instead, they're just looking to push a political narrative. Facts be damned. So because you couldn't do that, I'm the enemy? This woman has to reach out to a civil rights organization to protect her from me? And I'm a homophobe and a racist? It's unreal. And the media has done this to me many times, right? I'm always right-wing this, blah, blah, this. They always have to couch it in conservative this. Okay, I might be a conservative media member, but I did a better job than you did, didn't I? So what does that say about you? It's wild. And yes, I'm pissed off about it. Because you think people who read the Olympian are then turning on my show to get my perspective on this? To get the truth? No, we talk about it all the time. It's the passive news consumer, and they read crap like this. They form their opinion about ICE. How many people read that initial story that was out that is still up today? Still up. How many people read that initial story not only in the Olympian, but across the McClatchy publications, across the state of Washington? And it's reinforcing the anger some of them might already have and the hate some of them might already have toward Donald Trump and immigration. And then, of course, I'm the bad guy as always. I'm the bad guy as always for doing what? Telling the simple truth. Do I tell it with a few swear words here and there? Sure. Do I tell it with a little color and pizzazz? Sure. Do I couch it in my opinion? Sure. But when we wrap up this show every single day, I feel confident that we told people the truth. And we let people form their own opinions based off the truth and reality. And I don't think that's too much to ask of actual journalists and the legacy news and the Fourth Estate. So I've asked the Olympian for an apology and a retraction, specifically of that last paragraph, by the end of business today. Now, I also think that they should take accountability somewhere in this article for their own shortcomings on the reporting around Paco, but I don't really have a say in that. Readers do. If you have a subscription to the Olympian, might be something you want to email the editors about today. Kindly, of course, because I always encourage you to do so kindly, and you're just kind people. So I can't control whether they want to be journalistic and have, editorial standards. But I do have a say when they publish falsehoods and defamatory statements about me, that any reasonable person would understand they're talking about me. And I won't tolerate it. I simply will not tolerate it. Wild. Something in the air. I think it was a piece of my hair. Don't worry. Hair. All right. It is primary election day. Wow, great stuff. It's primary election day in the state of Washington, maybe elsewhere where you are as well. I know not all of you have ballots, but there are some really important races. I just want to tick through them real quick if you have not turned in your ballot yet. And these are the races to me that are really going to help, if they go the right way, they're going to help restore just a tiny bit of sanity in Washington state, but be it kind of a check on an out-of-control party in power. And look, I always say, vote for who you want to vote for. If you do not agree with the people who I prefer in these races, by all means, check the box for the other person. I just want every legal voter to vote. And that's democracy, ladies and gentlemen. But there's two really important state Senate races that are the result of vacancies. One in the 5th legislative district. So Issaquah, Snoqualmie area down further south in King County. So right now, it's the vacancy that was there left by the passing of former state Senator Bill Ramos is Democrat Victoria Hunt, and she has just done everything that Democrats in Olympia want her to do since she's been there. She signed off on all the new taxes, all the soft on crime stuff, etc. She's just a rubber stamp. If you are even a moderate or reasonable Democrat, I know you might not want to vote for a Republican in the era of Trump, but please suck it up and vote for Chad Mogendans. He's like a fairly mainstream Republican. He's even gotten Seattle Times endorsements. He's a great guy. He's a teacher. And we need in the state Senate we need that balance to come we need the ship to be righted a little bit. So Chad Magendas in the 5th, similar situation in the 26th legislative district in the Bremerton area. Instead of Deb Krishnadansan, who is the Democrat who was installed in that seat, we need Michelle Caldier to win that seat. She's great, 26th district. And then, of course, there are some D on D races. If I do anything today, it is encouraging Republicans who have a hard time filling in a circle for a D to just go ahead and do it and understand you cannot sit these races out, and not all Democrats are created equal. So in the 33rd legislative district, the race for the state house in the Berrien area, Edwin Obras is the progressive who was installed in that seat, but Kevin Schilling is the much better option. He's business friendly. He cares about public safety. I also saw a video of Edwin Obras and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal campaigning over the weekend, dangerously close to a ballot drop box. State law says you can't campaign within 25 feet of a ballot drop box. I also believe that it has to do with whether you can hear them within 25 feet. Now, look, I get it. By the time you're bringing your ballot to a ballot drop box, you've already got that thing signed, sealed, delivered, and your choice is made. Is someone campaigning next to it going to change your mind? No, but it is against the law for the reason that it's voter intimidation. And you know what? It's really tacky. It is really tacky. There are a million places you can campaign besides right in front of a freaking ballot drop box, Edwin Obras, and then all of his liar mailers he's been putting out. So Kevin Schilling in that race. Similar situation, the state Senate race in the 48th district, D on D. It's like the Kirkland area. Vandana Slaughter is the rubber stamp that Democrats want. The other Democrat in the race is Amy Wallen. Right now, she's a state representative. And she's taken some votes I don't agree with, but when it comes to taxes, being business friendly, supporting public safety, there is a far greater likelihood that she's going to vote for Sanity and be able to vote against her own party. So if you're a Republican in the 48th, please, don't let your ballot sit there on your counter. Fill in the circle for Amy Wallen. So that's all I have to say about the primary election. We'll have results tomorrow. And this is a big deal. I mean, it's not every year you have this many vacancies that are being filled. But I mean, we have Democrats, so they've consolidated their power to the point where, as you saw this session, they can push through anything that they want. So if we can get a couple Democrats who are willing to dissent, which is hard. So if you have Democrats willing to dissent, I think that speaks to their character, like Amy Wallen, like Kevin Schilling. That's good. And if you can get a couple Republicans in the Senate, we could have a much different legislative session next year. So we'll have follow-ups on where those races are tomorrow. And then, of course, so we got this primary election, and then next year already we're going to be into the midterms, and it's already, starting in earnest. Kshama Sawant, of course, the former Socialist Seattle City Council member who quit her job, and I was hoping, we'd never have to talk to her about her ever again, but she's now running for Congress against Democratic Congressman Adam Smith in the 9th. And Adam Smith, I think he's pretty reasonable. He comes on our show a lot, but he constantly is facing challenges from the far left. This has become just a normal thing for him because Republicans aren't going to be able to win in his district. And so he gets these, leftist challengers, in this case, a socialist challenger. And she's been just vile to Congressman Smith because of his support for Israel and calling him a war criminal. And Congressman Smith has had his home vandalized. He's been threatened over his support for Israel. And so she doesn't care. She doesn't care if people go to his home and vandalize his home and make him feel unsafe in his home. She's really just a vile person. And so her and her supporters showed up to a town hall that he was having on Monday, so last night, at Renton Technical College. And they were so unhinged that a few of them got arrested. Kshama Sawant put out a video of some of the arrests happening, said police have arrested 3 peaceful anti-genocide activists from Workers Strike Back at Democrat Adam Smith's town hall just for chanting. Cops are protecting the actual criminal Adam Smith, who has been funding the genocide and who needs to be on trial for war crimes. Yeah, I'm sure, Kshama Sawant, because everything you say has the ring of truth to it. That's a lot of cops there, though. Good for Renton. Really calling in and these are just Antifa. I said that. You know what? These are the same people who will put a black mask on at night and break things and hurt people. Same type of people. Show up at all the socialist events. They just happened to be in normal clothing yesterday. So Congressman Adam Smith gave what I have to believe is a closer version of the truth on social media last night. He said today's town hall was intentionally disrupted to attempt to silence a democratic conversation between a representative and his constituents. This behavior is unacceptable. One of my staff members was physically assaulted during the chaos, an act that crosses every line of civil discourse. Peaceful protest is protected in our democracy. Violence and coordinated efforts to shut down public dialogue are not. My team and I remain committed to open, respectful engagement with the people of the 9th District. Gee, who do I believe? Kshama Sawant, that these were peaceful anti-genocide protesters, or Kshama Sawant, who supported all the rioting and violence and vandalism and hurting of police officers in 2020, or do I believe semi-reasonable Congressman Adam Smith that one of his staff members was assaulted by one of these lunatics? I'm going to go with Congressman Smith on this one. So she spoke outside. They went to, just to give you a little bit of information, police say 9 protesters went on the stage. So this is coming from neither of them, third party, police. Police say 9 protesters went on the stage. They started chanting during the event, so they disrupted it. Officers got most of them to be able to leave, willingly. 3 ended up coming back. They were warned repeatedly, and then they were eventually arrested for trespassing. So that's what happened. Most of them left. Police gave them a chance to leave, like, hey, you're disrupting the event, get off the stage. 3 of them came back. They ended up being arrested despite multiple warnings for trespassing. Here's what Kshama Sawant had to say outside the detention center where they're being held.
The cops under capitalism will not arrest the real criminals, the criminals who are the criminals here, the people who have funded the genocide. It's both Democrats like Adam Smith and Republicans who have bankrolled this slaughter and bloodshed in Gaza. And every activist who is arrested has a badge of honor on their chest because they are standing up for the right side of history.
That's right.
Yeah. It's not right.
Adam Smith, you can't hide.
You are funding genocide.
Adam Smith, you can't hide.
You are funding genocide.
Adam Smith, you
turn
can't
it
hide.
off. I don't want it.
You are funding genocide.
Adam Smith,
Stop it.
you can't hide.
Nicole's like, no, I'm not. You did that intentionally to hurt me. To hurt me.
I hate their little chants, and they're so stupid, but they're so planned.
They're so, well, of course, one of the very first interactions I had with Kshama Sawant, I believe she was still, no, she was a city council member at the time. I was really young, though. I was still in radio news, and she got arrested down in SeaTac during a protest. And I saw the video not long ago where I'm sort of, what do you think the mayor will say? And she goes, you should ask him. And she was just sort of laughing and loved getting arrested for the cause or whatever. But here we are, still talking about her nonsense. She is running for Congress. I made a prediction on the show a couple months ago when she launched her campaign that she'd get like 7% of the vote. I'm going to change that prediction. 3%.
Really?
I like to think.
Oh.
3. Maybe I should change it up since people are so anti-Semitic lately.
I think people are just crazy here.
So I'll keep adjusting this as time goes on. But she's so utterly annoying. I'm going to say 3%. Okay, and I'll change, eventually, and then we'll have to get some bet on paper and have money involved and all of that stuff. So
yeah, she is annoying. It's shocking
annoying.
to me how many people don't listen, how many people don't pay attention to this stuff. Like we're in it, and our listeners are in it, and we're just in this world. But there's so many people that don't pay attention, and I think that's what's so frustrating to me.
That's what we talk about.
That's what we talk about all the time.
Legacy media, and that's the only narrative that they get. Nothing else. Just crazy.
They don't hear it.
I agree. Oh, Kshama, up to her old tricks. Did she ever stop them? Just constant. All right, coming up next, a local chapter of the state Republican Party put out what they thought was a pretty chill poll, pretty simple poll. Do you support boys playing in girls' sports? Nothing much to it. They got the results back. Turns out a lot of people don't support it. But then, speaking of the Olympian, the Olympian wrote a story about it and made a huge deal out of this simple poll. We'll have that story coming up next in Unbelievable. First, look, we're all trying to work hard enough to be able to have a good, comfortable retirement. My retirement dream is I want to live on some land and rescue old dogs from the shelter and just pet them and love them until they leave the earth. Yes, that's my dream retirement. Kind of sounds sad now that I say it like that. That's sort of depressing. But no, it'll be very rewarding. And to not have to go on X or Facebook or deal with anybody calling me a right wing and blaming me for stuff, I'm checking out. You guys can come out, though, to the ranch. Nobody else. Anyway, Zach Abraham at Bulwark Capital is the guy who can help make sure that you're on track for retirement. They specialize at Bulwark in managing risk, which is really important right now. I mean, we see that with the markets, we see it with global unrest, etc. So do you even know what your risk management strategy is with your current portfolio? If you're not, are you confident in the composition of your portfolio for 2025? If you're sort of like, I don't know, Brandi, maybe you should reach out to Zach Abraham at Bulwark Capital and just get a second opinion. Have him take a look at your portfolio for you. Say, hey, Brandi told me to give you a call to reach out. She said you'd give me a second opinion on my retirement portfolio. He'd be more than happy to do that. And then he'll do a full reveal of how Bulwark is always looking for opportunities to lower risk, lower cost, give your retirement as much upside as possible. After all, you only get one retirement. So whether you want to spend it on a beach somewhere or in the sun, that's Nicole. I'm sure she's like already planning to go to Arizona. Or like me, if you want to do something much more noble than laying on a beach for retirement, Nicole. I'm just a better person than you. I want to rescue dogs. I'm just kidding.
That's part of mine too.
I'm just kidding.
I know
Nicole.
Animals.
Yes. Whatever it is, make sure that your retirement is properly protected against risk. Reach out to Zach Abraham at knowyourriskpodcast.com, and ask for a free Know Your Risk portfolio review. All right. Apparently, it is hateful to put out a poll asking people if they believe boys should participate in girls' sports. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. Okay, so of course there's all these cultural issues that Republicans in our state tend to try to stay away from. And I've said, I'd encouraged them in the past to do so, but now I think that's a mistake because some of these cultural issues are deeply unpopular, like letting dudes play against chicks. That's just weird. And most people, when polled privately, will admit that, they don't support that. And so I think it's okay for Republicans to take a position on that or to, see what their constituents feel like, what voters feel like, and then use that as a gauge for whether it's something that they should prioritize during election years. So that's exactly what the Thurston County, Washington Republican Party did. They sent out a text poll to voters, and they asked about the issue of boys and girls sports. And the Olympian decided to do a report on this simple little text poll. Here's how the headline went. Thurston County Republican Party poll about high school sports raises online concerns and ire. Okay, what happened here? Because last I checked, I thought it was just a simple poll, right? Do you support boys and girls sports or not? So I guess what happened? Why is it raising concerns and ire? Let's read on, shall we? Olympia and Tumwater residents might have received a text this weekend that asked, should biological boys play in girls' high school sports? Yes or no? According to Corey Ghani, chair of the Thurston County Republican Party, the texts were sent by the party to roughly 28,000 registered voters in Olympia and Tumwater. Ghani said the purpose of the poll was to gather data on the electorate's concerns. Averaged between Olympia and Tumwater voters, 16% of respondents answered yes, biological boys should play in girls' sports, while 84% answered no. Ghani also said the party received additional responses, which are still being processed and identified as yes or no answers. He said, and just to be clear, it wasn't strictly yes or no. We had some very vile and vulgar responses that obviously we account for yes or no, depending on that response. So we're still breaking all of that down. So people who didn't respond yes or no and might have said something, as he said, vile or vulgar, they're trying to ascertain whether that vile or vulgar statement, was somebody saying yes or no. Anyway, so it's a super straightforward thing. And turns out most people don't think that boys should participate in girls' sports. I've always called it an 80-20 issue, but even in Olympia, Tumwater, which is a very far left area of Washington state, it's 84-16, big deal. However, whose voices do you think the Olympian decided that it was going to prioritize in its reporting? Oh, the angry far left fringe, of course. They said, however, social media users have expressed their concerns about the poll. One user who reacted to the text posted this comment on Reddit, quote, targeting a small handful of children like this is truly, utterly reprehensible. Another local responded to the text with, trans people exist. Mind your own business. It was all caps. Other social media users said they were concerned about how the county GOP was able to reach them or how the party decided who to text. But Gandhi said they followed FCC guidelines in distributing the recent polls. I don't want people to be fearful that we got their private information, and I want them to be reassured that no, this is how door knockers for campaigns know where to go as well. So, you guys, they send out a poll via text. And look, polls are annoying. You could be annoyed with the poll. But 84% of people in one of the most progressive areas of the state said no, boys should not compete against girls in sports. And what does the Olympian do? Well, they write a headline about how this simple poll that was heavily weighted toward the side of sanity drew concerns and ire. And what do they use to craft that whole story? One Reddit post. They go to the bowels of the internet. They go to the deep, deep bowels of the internet and they reach out and they pluck something out that they think will get them clicks. And it's one person talking about how it's reprehensible, and they craft a whole story around it. The whole story around it. Actually, they have two people. The one person on Reddit and another person who responded, trans people exist. So 84% of 28,000 people said, no, don't let the dudes compete against the girls. But the Olympian has to point out how hateful that is and pluck two comments out of obscurity to paint the Republican Party as like vile and hateful. It's wild. If you haven't canceled your Olympian subscription already, now is a really good day to do that. Now is a really good day to do that.
And if the editors there were watching for our first segment, I hope they stuck around for Unbelievable.
I should have teased that we would have two Olympian segments. I truly believe there is no fixing this. There is no fixing it. There is no fixing it. When I left mainstream news, I've said this so many times, I wanted to go back. I thought, hey, let me try this independent thing, point out some things that I think are wrong. Having been inside the legacy newsrooms, I would love for this institution to get back on its feet, to do its job, to hold the powerful accountable, to tell the truth, to seek the truth. And now I realize it's just not possible. It's not going to be fixed in its current form. I mean, look at the depths of just how horrible their attempts at journalism are. And then they're the ones manipulating the electorate, so they have to go under. Bankruptcy is too good for them. Bankruptcy is too kind an ending for them. But that's really the only tool we have at our disposal. We have to continue to work to chip away at their audience, to reach their audience with truth and reason and independent thought, whether it's our outlet or some other reasonable outlet. And then we need to remind people that if you're passively supporting what they're doing, stop. These newspapers aren't making money hand over fist. They're not. They're dwindling by the day. And it is not going to take much for them to go out of business. And I think them going out of business is actually the best result. It truly is. Too harsh? No. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about what's happening in Texas with redistricting, gerrymandering debate, all of that. Also, the New York Post is now going to launch the California Post. I think that's great. I think it's great for the media ecosystem. First, if you're thinking about selling your home, maybe to move out of state, somewhere more sane, or maybe to just move across the street because you don't like your immediate neighbor. I wouldn't know, though. I like my neighbors. Reach out to our friend Wes Jones at sellwithwes.com. Sellwithwes.com. Everybody has that neighbor. Do you have that neighbor, Nicole, who if something was happening to you right now, you know who you'd run to?
Yes. Oh, I know who I'd run to.
Oh, yeah. I know which of my neighbors owns firearms.
Only because
that's where I'm running to.
I only have like one under the age of 80. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You got to run to someone who's going to be able to. Anyway, yeah. I'm off track. Sorry, Wes. Sorry, Wes Jones. He's like, can I have some money back for these reads? Because I don't even know if you're really talking about my business. Sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com. Wes and his team have an innovative marketing strategy. They're going to make sure no matter how many other homes are out there that your home stands out, your listing stands out, get more feet in the door, more offers on the table, and ultimately the best possible price for your home. And that's what we want. We want to make the most money out of our home as possible when we go to sell it. And they also can help you if you have to make any cosmetic upgrades. And I think this is a really cool service that Wes offers that you're just not going to see a lot of other places because it takes so much stress away from the home seller. When you worry about the money you have to come out of pocket to make cosmetic upgrades or just the process of managing those projects. No, Wes will do it all for you. He'll come in. He loves doing it. He's the son of a builder. He loves it. So he's going to come in, manage those projects. He's only going to recommend doing things that he knows you'll get the money back plus some on the back end. And then you don't even have to pay for those things until closing. So the financial pressure is off of you as well. All right, reach out to Wes, sellwithwes.com. Start by using their home value calculator to see how much your home is worth and then go from there. Sellwithwes.com, a better way to sell your home. Yeah, I'm running straight to my neighbor who has a firearm and isn't afraid to use it.
Although I did find out the former sheriff, Adam Fortney, hangs out right next door to me.
Oh, he's got a friend over there or something?
No, like he hangs, that's the area he works in.
Oh, because he's on the road now, that he patrols.
Well,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you call 911, you say, send Adam Fortney.
Yeah, I know where he hangs out.
I tell you what, if I'm in trouble, I want an Adam Fortney coming through my door.
Oh, yeah.
Guns blazing, for sure. Yeah. Yes. Take no prisoners.
Send the sheriff.
Send the sheriff.
He's my sheriff.
The only sheriff of Thurston County, the only sheriff of Pierce County.
No, Snohomish.
Snohomish County, I recognize. It's Adam Fortney. All right, some national news. So there's this whole issue going on in Texas with redistricting that Democrats are saying are a blatant attempt from Republicans to gerrymander, and you know what? Probably is. Seems like it is. This whole controversy is just funny to me. It's because it used to be that gerrymandering is like this universally frowned upon thing, but now it's like everybody says it's bad, but everybody does it. I mean, red states do it, blue states do it, but it's like you never let a good controversy opportunity go to waste. So there are 2026 midterms coming up. So there are some states that have some certainly in Congress, there's razor thin majorities. And so there's all this, hand wringing over are Republicans going to be able to keep their seats or not. So in Texas, state House Democrats are pledging to remain outside the state. They literally fled the state because they want to block a GOP-led redrawing of the congressional districts there that does clearly favor Republicans. So Democrats are like, we're leaving the state. We're going to rob you of the amount of people that you need. What do you call it? A quorum? Whatever. We're going to rob you of the amount of people you need to be able to vote on this. So now they have issued civil arrests for the Democrats who fled the state.
The sergeant at arms and any officers appointed by her are directed to send for all absentees whose attendance is not excused for the purposes of securing and maintaining their attendance under warrant of arrest if necessary until further order of the House.
Yeah, and it's probably unenforceable because it's outside of state lines. It's like a civil thing that the House put down. And look, I get it. Democrats are a little mad. The proposal from Republicans could potentially eliminate 5 Democratic U.S. House seats heading into the midterm elections. So you've seen Democrats melt down about this. Gavin Newsom in California said, we'll fight fire with fire. We're going to do the same thing in California. And Kathy Hochul in New York said, we're going to do the same thing in New York. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal came out with this statement, Congresswoman from our state. To stop Republicans from redrawing congressional maps to steal 5 House seats, Texas Democrats have left the state a last resort to block the maps. Any attempt by Governor Abbott to arrest these members or vacate their seats would be plainly illegal and authoritarian. And she also has spoken out against the redrawing in Texas. And here's the thing. Gerrymandering in principle is a bad thing, right? It's like looking at how can we draw a congressional district so it favors one political party or the other. But it happens all the time. Both parties engage in gerrymandering all the time. And it is the height of moral hypocrisy. I mean, did Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal say anything about the redistricting that was done in Washington state, where Democrats were mad that in a majority Hispanic district, a Republican won? So what do? They redrew the lines and literally removed the seat of the first Latina senator to serve in Washington state because she wasn't the right kind of Latina. She was a Republican, and they're like, well, let's redraw this district so we can get a Latina, but it would be a Democrat. So it's fine when the Democrats do it, according to Congresswoman Jayapal. Didn't say anything about poor Senator Nikki Torres losing her seat. But now, because Republicans are done, it's just like, But I watched this great segment on Hannity on Fox News I wanted to play for you guys because I really thought he explained some of the unfairness and how maybe, like, is there a place for sort of some reverse, I don't call it reverse gerrymandering, but fixing some of the gerrymandering that's already been done, because he points out sort of the popular vote in states, right? And even in a state like Washington, I don't remember what the final was for Trump, but it was around 30%. It might have even been more than that for Trump, probably somewhere in the 30 percentile range in a state like Washington. But do Republicans have like 30% of the congressional seats here? No. I think it was more than that. I'll have to look while we play this clip. But Sean Hannity did a good segment on how that looks in other states in the U.S.
Of course, Illinois has a long history. It's been one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. Let me give you an example. 2024, Donald Trump, he got 44% of the vote in Illinois. Not bad considering most people with common sense in Illinois got out and left. And Republicans won 47% of statewide the House vote, but they only have 18% of the House seats. Why? Because of gerrymandering. Take a look at this map. Because of the way it was drawn by Democrats, only 3 out of the state's 17 House seats are controlled by Republicans. And it's not just Illinois. Most states under Democratic rule look exactly like that. In Maryland, for example, Republicans have just 1 seat while garnering 35% of the vote. In Massachusetts, Donald Trump got 36% of the vote. Republicans won 0 seats.
That's crazy.
Not 1. Representing the 36% of Republicans in that state. Republicans also won 0 seats in Connecticut, despite winning 40% of the vote. And get this, in the state of Nevada, a state that favored Republicans by a whopping 10 points, and a state that Donald Trump won in 2024, Democrats somehow won every single House race except for 1.
Yeah.
Why? Gerrymandering.
Right. So if we want to talk about gerrymandering, fine. If we want to come up with a more fair way to do it, fine. But to be mad about it when Republicans do it and not mad about it when Democrats very clearly do it, obviously is the height of hypocrisy. And it was 40%. Trump got 39.01% in Washington state. So we have 10 members of Congress in our state. 2 of them are Republicans. So 1/5 of our congressional delegation is Republicans, despite 40% of voters here supporting a Republican in the presidential election. So yeah, and you looked at some of those maps that he showed. Clearly there's gerrymandering, and I don't know the perfect way to do it. They try in the state of Washington to have like a bipartisan, nonpartisan redistricting commission where they, come to some sort of consensus and some sort of agreement, but it never works out perfect. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that you can win, as a Republican presidential candidate, 40% of the state, but still only 2 congressional seats go to Republicans. So maybe there's a better way to do it, but let's not all act like either side is particularly above board. Okay, really quickly, this is a great New York Post headline. African American meets Native American. Oh, it might be one of their better headlines. So, of course, talking about Mamdani, the New York City Democratic mayoral candidate, and United States Senator Elizabeth Warren. She will never shake the Native American falsehood.
Nope.
Absolutely not. Great headline from the New York Post, but I think the bigger takeaway, so she's now endorsed him. She appeared alongside him at a union fundraising event in New York City to support his universal child care proposal. And we've talked about this. There is very little daylight between modern day progressives and socialists. And even many, many Democrats who consider themselves mainstream Democrats who also turn around and support socialist ideas like rent control, like pay for striking workers, like reparations, free for everyone else. And this just proves it. So Senator Elizabeth Warren talking about how Mamdani's platform basically is or should be the Democratic Party platform.
When someone stands up and says, I will lead this city by making it more affordable. And here are my plans, real plans to deliver on child care, plans to deliver on housing, plans to deliver. We're going to experiment. We're going to try things on groceries. That is the Democratic message.
That's not good. Democratic message is to spend $65 million of taxpayer funds mutilating children for the sake of radical gender ideology. The Democratic message is government-run grocery stores and like bread lines. So she's saying it there. That is the Democratic message. Concrete plans. It's not concrete plans when your plan is just give stuff away. That's not a plan. That's socialism, and socialism has never worked anywhere throughout the entire history of time, and it's the reason people flee socialist countries for capitalist countries. But if they want to lean into the absolutely out and proud socialism leading into the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential election, by all means, Elizabeth Warren, keep going. I won't stop you. I do want to note, just because that New York Post headline was so good, they're launching the California Post. So the New York Post bringing their talents to California. It says, Los Angeles, here we come. America's oldest newspaper launches in the city of angels. This is going to be so good. Because again, like they are very, I think, funny in a way that gets people engaged in the news. And that's always good, right? But, in deep blue bastions, they need the treatment that the Post often offers. And Agreed. I think that it is going to be disruptive in the California media landscape.
It's often hard to deny. So even if you want to look from you can't look at it and say, well, they're wrong. No, it's usually right. Mm-hmm. even if you want to look from a different perspective,
even if it's
they're always
true. That's what I was saying about us. It's like, hey, if you want to dismantle my facts, let's have a conversation about that. If you want to challenge and say I'm lying about something, or I've mistaken, or my analysis of something is flawed, like I'll have that conversation with you. But we try to couch our opinions in truth. And at the end of the day, people can look at the same truths and form different opinions about it. But yeah, the Post is always good, but at least it's fact-based. And they usually have, I think, an interesting, easy to digest spin on things that is truthful.
I think it gets people listening, and that's
100%.
That's the key. Again, it's getting people to listen. People just check out and then vote the way they think that they are supposed to vote or whatever. They're not listening.
No, we got to challenge people to think independently. Okay, we got our subscriber poll coming up next. Then your comments and questions from the show today, I'm sure. People don't give me money anymore for cursing, but if we were ever going to...
Oh, you had money before the show even started for cursing today.
They already knew. I got to bleep out some of that, though. First, if you're interested in housing policy in the state of Washington, or really beyond, if you're a builder, a developer, if you're a small to mid-sized landlord, consider signing up for the Engage Conference. It's coming up October 22nd to 23rd at Maidenbauer Center in Bellevue. I will be there. I'll be on a panel with my friend Jonathan Cho talking about how the media covers housing policy. And of course, they cover it horribly. And that's how we end up with policies like rent control. So that should be really fun. So if not for any other reason, come watch Jonathan Cho and I talk smack about the legacy news media. But again, if you're maybe thinking about becoming a landlord, getting a rental unit, something like that, or you're a builder developer, want information on all the new policies passed in Washington, Engage is a great place to learn about everything going on. Sign up, rhawa.org, rhawa.org. While you're there, become a member of the Rental Housing Association of Washington. It's like $260 for an entire year, and they can help you if you're a landlord navigate this insane environment that we're in around regulations and the anti or the pro-tenant anti-landlord laws, etc. So rhawa.org. All right, our daily subscriber poll, just one of the many benefits besides feeling good on the inside of supporting Undivided, is being able to participate in our daily subscriber show poll on Patreon, Locals, and X. The question I asked, quite self-serving indeed, do you have a paid subscription to any mainstream or legacy news outlet, local or national? Yes or no?
Hold on. Here you go. Here's your poll.
Thanks.
I do not.
You don't?
No.
Should we tell people how we get the Seattle Times?
No.
No, we don't have to say specifically.
No.
We use someone else's login.
We do use someone else's.
Over and over for years. I'm not paying for that crap.
No.
But sometimes I need to access to it to make fun of them.
We do.
Yeah. Otherwise, we just use the archive feature. It's like archive.ph or something.
Yes.
And then we'll go back and it kind of gets around most paywalls. It's a cheat. I'm not paying these people.
Yeah.
I'm not paying these people. Look, if I had a subscription to the Tacoma News Tribune, and I think I've since canceled that because they were willing to print my op-eds for a period of time, and I gave them credit for that, right?
Yeah.
And then they were just posting the most loony stuff, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to give you $5 or whatever it is a month.
I know that archive website. I'm surprised they can get away with it.
I'm surprised they're not sued for by something for someone.
I don't know how it works, but it works.
But so. I before I get to your guys' responses, I do support a lot of independent media because, I mean, obviously that's how we function as people subscribe to our show. But, for a long time, like I would value it, but I wouldn't pay for it. I'm like, why am I not paying for this stuff? So like I've got the Daily Wire. I support Jonathan Cho, Katie Davis Court, a couple other people on X. Right. So I will do the subscription on X and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think if you like the work and you
also
want it to continue,
advertisers. So there's different. There's advertisers that we support of outlets we support. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's different ways you can support people, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah. 84%. This is funny. This is really funny, actually. The poll results are the exact same as that poll for should
Oh,
boys
that's
play
funny.
against girls. 16% yes. 84% no. Exactly. That's funny.
Wild.
So 84% of you say no, you don't pay for any sort of mainstream legacy news subscription. 16% yes. Let me see. Richard said, the news is here and Daily Wire. Well, we appreciate you coming to us for your news needs. Chuck says, now, Brandi, you know darn well you're the only one I trust enough to pay. I appreciate that. But you guys will also tell me when I'm full of it, which I also appreciate as well. Tamara says, sadly, I subscribe to the Seattle Times so I can keep up with the BS they're feeding the community. No, Tamara. No.
Don't do it.
That's not a good enough reason to give them your money. Cancel and send them an email letting them know why you're canceling. Let's see. Jen says, I just canceled my last one. It's disgusting that you can't even get small bouts of news without subscriptions anymore, so it's not worth it to have any of them, except ours, apparently. I understand ones that are listed as subscribers only, but entire news sites are paywalled. Guess the news isn't important if they don't want to give any of it for free. I don't even go to the sites anymore. I will say, it is frustrating. Like, we do one... Well, technically, we do the show poll that's paywalled every day. And then our Sunday show is always paywalled. But we do a lot of free content as well because we want to make sure that it's getting out to the masses. But I will say there are some outlets where you get like, it'll let you visit a site like once or twice for free a month. And then you have to pay for everything else. It can even be some sort of like breaking news emergency thing. And then you hit a paywall. You're like, well, I guess I'll just die in a tsunami because, you know, I got to pay $5 to find out when the tsunami is going to hit. So yeah, I get it. I get having to make money. I totally understand that. I mean, we, you know, have advertisers for a reason. We have subscriptions for a reason. It's how we're able to do the job. So I don't fault news outlets for having it. But, you know, if you're paying for it and they're hurting the community and the state and they're not doing their job and you're just paying for it passively because you've always had a Seattle Times subscription, you got to stop, because until they either suffer the financial consequences so much that they have to change and do better or go under, nothing's going to change in the state. Nothing is going to change. I'll read a couple comments on locals. Chris said, I subscribe to the Seattle Times digital, mostly for the comics. Can't be that funny, Chris. Comics can't be that good. Usually the comics are like anti-Trump.
Watch a comedian on Netflix. Good grief.
You have to pay for Netflix too. I'm so judgy. B. Larson says, I maintain a virtual subscription to the Seattle Times because of my work. I need to know what the mainstream media is putting out. Otherwise, I would have dumped the multi-page opinion piece Times a long time ago. Well, hopefully, B. Larson, you're getting reimbursed from your employer for having to.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not coming out of your own pockets. But yes, interesting. I actually thought more people would have a paid subscription to a legacy news outlet, because people who are commenting are usually, they pay for ours, right? I mean, obviously we're way better than the Seattle Times, clearly, but we appreciate you guys. Thank you for having a subscription to us and not to the Seattle Times.
I do think people are more used to having subscriptions now that you have to have one for every different, you know, platform, Netflix, Hulu, all the different, people are just used to having all these different subscriptions. So you kind of forget about them. So
a little bit, they can add up, and I always appreciate it. Like, I always appreciate that people, you know, there's a lot of things that require payment, and for people who spend the money on our show, I always just am just really appreciative of that. Speaking of, and other comments and questions from the show today, I'm just a ray of sunshine gave us a $100 super chat saying, Brandi, you're the only person I pay a subscription to. I've even gifted a couple to friends and family. Keep up what you're doing. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so nice.
$99.99.
I know.
Appreciate that.
That's really nice. I'm going to buy some booze with that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to buy booze with it. I'll buy us some drinks to recover from these slanderous. You know what?
Paco.
I'll use that money and pay it toward an attorney to send a cease and desist to the Olympian if they don't give me an apology by the end of the day. I think that's a good use for it.
Or some tequila.
Yes. Sauce. I don't like tequila. I can't.
Margaritas.
We're going to a country music concert on Friday, Nicole and I, and a big group of people. And I'm just like already thinking about drinking. I'm so old now. And I'm just like, oh God, are we going to drink? Are we going to have to drink? Oh, I'm going to play blackjack though. Maybe I shouldn't announce where we're going 5 days beforehand, but Sauce with the $19.99 super chat for tissues so Carissa can wipe the tears of getting caught lying. And again, I don't think she knew the dude was a murderer, but I'm pretty sure she also didn't care to make sure what she was putting out was factual.
All you had to do was hit reply to email.
Yes, to any of the emails, and we could have helped you get to the bottom of it. So you understood. Matthew Cook says, if I'm the problem, well, you might be the reason, from Morgan Wallen. Yes,
I know, that was
100%.
pretty perfect.
Alex Hansen, our friend Alex. Alex, I'm sorry. I didn't respond. He sent us a nice email, and I didn't respond to it.
did.
Alex, I read it, though.
We did.
And we love you. And I agree with your sentiments. You're such a nice person. So that's my response to your email. Here's your comment. I love your integrity and truth-telling, Brandi. Even your occasional color in your heartfelt words. Clarification, however. I thought that it was the U.S. Marshals Service that picked Paco up, not ICE, correct? And why? Not because he was targeted by ICE as an illegal immigrant, though he overstayed his visitor visa, but because he was wanted in Mexico for a crime. This would have happened even under the Biden administration. Yeah, and we did say it was Homeland Security investigations in concert with the U.S. Marshals. And our understanding in speaking to HSI is because he was wanted for murder in Mexico, but he was also in the U.S. illegally, which made it easier to have a reason to pick him up.
And which is also why the error in Olympian reporting, which our headline identified as ICE, made it harder to verify. Right,
because we were like ICE.
We checked with ICE,
and
ICE
like,
said
we
no.
didn't have any sort of operation like that, whatever it is. But obviously HSI is hand in hand with ICE. It was just a different sort of thing for a different reason. It wasn't like a regular immigration enforcement action.
But that headline has not been
crazy
fixed or taken down.
Jim
Again.
Kelly, the Olympian regrets that the truth comes out. Yeah, that's their only regret.
Yeah, exactly.
We regret that Brandi showed everyone how much we suck. I mean, what sour grapes is that? Let's publish a quote from a civil rights organization painting Brandi as a racist bigot because we got corrected publicly.
It's really
Nicole knows,
shocking.
you guys. I walked in, slammed my car door, walked into the studio, slammed the studio. I go, what the fuck? And Nicole's like, I know. She knew I was pissed off.
She's like, I wish the show was starting now.
I was ready.
It's probably better you have an hour to cool.
And then before the show, I was taking deep breaths. I was like, I need to calm down. And Nicole's like, don't calm down yet.
Yeah,
don't calm down. Sawant supporters arrested at the Adam Smith town hall. Nathan Danner, send Kshama Sawant to the other Washington. No thanks. No, thank you. Matt M. These stupid chants remind me of JV football cheerleaders. Yeah. I'm actually surprised at some of the schools in Washington State. They don't have anti-genocide chants at the football games. E on Patreon. I could go my whole life without hearing Sawant's voice ever again. And notice the supporters have no enthusiasm behind it. Socialism eats the soul. That's so true. In that video, they're all like,
Adam Smith.
robots.
What is it?
Adam, you can't hide. You're funding genocide.
Good
Oh, yeah. And Nicole totally, I already know what was happening in your head. Like, I'm going to make this chant cut really long. So Brandi has to sit here and listen to Kshama Sawant chanting.
Like, that's enough, man.
And then she wouldn't stop. She could have, with one click, stopped it. And she's looking at me and she's not. And I'm like, this SOB. She's trying to trigger me today. The Olympian story on the poll about boys and girls sports. Ukrainian Kozak says, I remember a time when your dad beat your ass if you wanted to play girls sports.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
The headline to that story, the Olympian, what is wrong with you? So it could have easily said, wow, overwhelming support for, girls, sports, staying.
Yes.
Gender.
Right. That's
separate.
what the story should have been.
That's what the overwhelming support. But instead,
nope, bigots.
2 Reddit posts don't like this poll, so we're gonna focus on that.
Guys, it's crazy.
Unreal.
Rapid fire on super chats for my swearing. Denise Young, preemptive swear jar donation. Denise knows me well enough. She's like, this is
she
coming.
knew that was coming.
Moon
There's
Goddess.
some people that were angry about your swears and because kids, but I'm like, you have to teach your kids that things that they hear, how, like, if you're not a swearing family, you teach your kids, yep, that's a word you might hear in the wild, but like, don't use it.
Did I not say kids out of the room?
Well, you did. You gave a warning. And then again, you have to teach your kids how to consume the world around them.
But also, I
all
should
part of the
swear
lesson.
less. I should swear less. I just make exceptions.
But at the same time, you also have, it's part of growing up and learning how to deal with the world.
Moon Goddess for Brandi's F-bomb. I got your back. Bolt up. Swear jar. GoFundMe. Let's see. For Adam Smith to hide, Sauce with the $20 super chat. That's funny. You guys are hilarious today. I love it. And speaking of hilarious, so is the President of the United States. Nicole, thank you so much. We're going to get to our closing.
Nope.
What?
I think you have another read.
Oh, and I missed one comment on gerrymandering from Tony. One on Facebook. One thing we can always count on: Dems will accuse conservatives of doing exactly what they say they're doing or have done. If they were playing poker, they would lose every hand. Agreed. All right, speaking of never losing a hand, you never lose a hand when you take the FirstMark Challenge. FirstMarkInsurance.com, FirstMarkInsurance.com. It's because they're going to make sure you have the winning hand every time. And what is the winning hand in insurance? Well, you've got the proper coverage in case... Stop laughing, Nicole. That was seamless.
That was perfect.
Seamless. Well, they're going to make sure you have the proper insurance in case the unthinkable happens and that you're not paying too much for it. Because who wants to pay too much for insurance? And they do all that work for you for free. So you don't have to do it yourself, which is just a no-brainer. We hear all the time from undivided viewers and listeners who are finally members of the FirstMark family because they took the FirstMark Challenge and they saved thousands of dollars a year on their insurance. So you too could become a member of the FirstMark family. It's simple. Just schedule some time to take the FirstMark Challenge. FirstMarkInsurance.com, FirstMarkInsurance.com. Make sure that when you do, you tell them you heard about them on Undivided with Brandi Kruse. That's me. Okay, and I clear now for my funny closing sanity check.
Good to go.
Who could not love this guy? Let's get to our closing sanity check. Apparently me, from 2015 to roughly 2024. But then I woke up and saw just how funny the President of the United States is. So the media is out on the lawn of the White House, as the press corps usually is. And they look up, and who do they see this morning on the roof of the White House, wandering around, but President Donald Trump.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
Taking a look.
Come down and talk to us. What are you building?
Are you considering more renovations, sir?
Hello, Peter. Looking good, Peter.
Are you going to build up?
Aye, sir.
Look how much fun not only Trump is having, but the media. They're laughing. They're like, oh, what are you doing up there, sir? Oh, and he goes, hi, Peter. Peter, Fox News. Looking good, Peter. And they're all just giggling and laughing. And then half of them turn around and paint him as the devil reincarnate on the news. But look, is there anyone having more fun than President Trump? And it was funny to watch more of this. He's been either doing all these renovations, and he and some others are paying for this new, like 90,000 square foot sort of ballroom thing, which isn't going to be paid for with taxpayer funds. And that's what he did. That's who he is, right? He's built things, and you can see like he's totally in his element, and he's up there, and he wants to be on the roof. And he wants to be looking around at all these things. He's having a great time. Unlike sleepy Joe Biden. If it had been Joe, people would have been like, oh my God, Joe's on the roof. Joe found his way onto the roof. Somebody go help him. Joe wouldn't have been up there intentionally, but the president was up there intentionally scoping out some things he wants to update. So funny, just fun. You know, we can laugh. If you can't laugh at something like that, what can you laugh at? We have to have some sanity. All right, that has been our closing sanity check. That has been today's episode of Undivided. For those of you upset with my curse-laden intro to the show, I'll bleep it all out and put it up on podcast, fully clean for you. How does that sound? I think that sounds good. That's it. If you want to sign up to support our show as we continue to take down legacy media, it's just $5 a month. I mean, that really is a screaming deal. And we've never increased it for inflation, never adjusted for inflation. It has remained $5 a month for the last almost 4 years. Go to undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. Click on the banner that says support the show. And while you're there, shop our merch store. See you tomorrow.